Good evening and welcome to your Four Lads Sunday show. Before I say hello to my guests, I need to give a quick mention to all of the new sponsors that we've got here at Four Lads. CBD Oil Scotland, LBJ Consultants, Elite Scooter Scotland, as well as our very own Candid, along with our partners over at Rangers Youth Development Company, Black Rooster and Art of Gold. Everyone here at Four Lads really appreciates all the support that you give us across the season, and also allowing us to deliver shows like this for you all season long. Now, on to my guests. I'm joined by the usual crew. First of all, the lady who is in the midst of a 6-week holiday, the Queen of Four Lads and Rangers podcasting. Sheryl, how are you this evening?
I'm brilliant, thank you very much. But my kind of busyness with work has been replaced with complete and utter absorption in World Cup stickers, World Cup Panini stickers. We're now at the stage of creating spreadsheets, Word documents. Every pack we get is pretty much doublers, but we've still got a fair amount to get within the album. So that's all I'm living for at the moment with the crap weather. That's where I'm at.
So are you making an appeal to the Four Lads audience for any gots that you need?
Yes.
Yeah, feel free to name a couple and we'll see what we can do.
Oh, I've actually got a spreadsheet that I will put out on X later on. That's how into this we are. But the kids are now calling them not doublers, like it's dubbies.
Dubbies. Right, okay.
Who's got the most dubbies? So if any of you out there are collecting these stickers and have any dubbies, hit me up on X, please.
That's magic, thank you. And just before we came on air, I noticed there was a comment just asking about when the next edition of Heart and Health was going to be released. So I don't know if you want to quickly update folks on that.
Yeah, due to our very busy schedules, James and I weren't able to record together this week. So I believe we're going to go for it on Tuesday. And rather nicely, this has come from a question that we have. We have an anonymous link to the pod, and it's come from a question. And this week's topic is divorce. Maybe you're divorced. Maybe you want a divorce. I don't know, but this has come from one of our listeners or one of our pod viewers who has a question around it. So that's the theme for this week.
Cool, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Now, a new nickname for Mr. Morrison, I think we'll call him Mr. International. He's just back from his jet set travels from Miami to Ibiza, LA to New York. Is that the way that the song goes, mate? How you doing, Mark?
I think it was something like that, but no, I'm good. A bit tired given it was... I didn't get home till about 4:30, so no, I'm all good. And little legs decided to get up at 8 o'clock this morning, but no, I'm good. Feel good couple of weeks in Miami and then in Cyprus last week, so no, I'm all good, and hopefully all the viewers are well as well.
Good. And last but no means least, it's the newest member of the Four Lads crew. William, how are you, sir? Are you keeping well?
Keeping well, thank you. Just chaotic household at the moment with a 3-year-old and a 12-week-old. Who's not slept all last night. So yeah, just going through those fun times. I'm sure we can all sympathise with that. But I'm doing well. Hope all the listeners and everyone else is doing well as well.
Good. Pleased to hear it, mate. I would say when they get to 19 and 20 that the sleep gets better, but it depends if they've been out at night, whether you sleep as easy as you normally would do, mate. So good luck with that. But it's actually been quite a busy week. Which has been really good. We've had a couple of press conferences from some of the players, another couple of guys through the door. So at least it gives us something to talk about tonight, which is good. So we'll start with the press conferences for Ross McCrory and Ben Godfrey, and it was Ross that was up first with the media on Thursday, and I think the reaction to this signing's been a little bit mixed. But I think at 28. He's coming back with a wealth of experience, having played over 150 games since he left us across Aberdeen and Bristol. But I think the most important things, Sheryl, is that he really understands what this club's about and the expectations. Now, he spoke about the need to be selfish when he left. And I think as a fan base, we've probably got to reserve judgment on him until we see how he performs when the season starts, because he's not going to be the same player that he left us when he was 23 years old.
No, and before we go any further with this, can I congratulate you? Because rumours were abounding this week that there was a handsome stranger present at all the Rangers podcasts this week. And I did a wee bit of research, and it turns out it was your good self in your new role as Rangers press conference 4 lads, man. So congratulations, boss.
It's the first time that I've ever been called boss. I do appreciate that, Sheryl, and I will give you the fiver and bag of Haribos after the show has finished. Thank you for those kind
It was
comments.
handsome stranger, wasn't it? Is that what you said?
Yeah, that's fine. That's okay.
Nice one. No, I again, it's like Rangers podcast bingo, isn't it? Here we go with the first one. He talked very well. I liked the way he sounded. Yeah, but he really did, and I thought it was really good that he went back and revisited the reasons why he left. He felt he had to leave. He wanted to challenge himself. He wanted to grow. I have to be honest, I haven't seen a huge amount of him when he was down at Bristol, but I know that someone, I think one of the guys that had podcasted during the week said he's coming back a completely different player. And I have in my head the Ross McCrory that left us. That's not how he's coming back to us at all. But I was so enthused by how he spoke, how he sounded, how sort of self-aware he was, but also how confident he was as well about the player that was coming back to us and what he'd be able to contribute as well. So no, I think it's great. I think it's a great sign and it makes sense. He was also very complimentary of Derek McInnes as well and the role that he's played in his career so far. And the fact that he's going to be able to link up with him again. So I thought he spoke extremely well and it was all sounding great.
Yeah, and we'll touch on McInnes in a wee bit, but I think the line from his presser that I really loved, Sheryl, actually was the bit about how the manager would get you running through brick walls for him. And I think that's a signal of the type of motivation that he can give some of these players as a manager. And we know that there's quality in some of this squad, but it's that type of attitude from the likes of McCrory, who might not be the most fancied of signings that we're going to make this summer, but he probably is going to end up being one of the bloody most effective because of his attitude and because of his love for the club. So it's going to be interesting to see how that pans out, I guess.
Yeah, and do you know what? How many times this season it takes me back to all the stuff that came out at the end of the season about Danny Rule going absolutely mental in the tunnel at Tynecastle, shouting that he needs leaders. We've all said that there's an absolute lack of fight and desire, and I don't know. We need more of us within the players, and we don't have that. So to hear that he's getting these players running through brick walls, that's what he inspires, that's what he wants from his players, is something that we have been missing for years now, and it's welcome back. Yeah,
absolutely is. I guess, Mark, the other thing that stood out within the presser, and again, words are cheap until we actually see the actions when the football starts, is the talk of standards. I think he spoke about his own improvement as a player and the fact that he had to leave Rangers to allow him to develop. And, the performances that he put in for Aberdeen and Bristol City has actually got him back here. Now, I think one of the things that we need to be cognizant of is he's not going to be Tav. He isn't going to be a player that is going to come in that right back spot and give us as many goal contributions as Tav has. And there's going to be very, very few players that will come in at right back who will be able to do that. I think the big thing for us and the frustration that we had with Tav as a right back is his defensive qualities. With McCrory, we're going to get a right back who's versatile, he's physical, has got a really, really good work rate, but he's not going to be the same type of threat going forward. And I think, does he come in to be our starting right back, or do you think that there's going to be a bit of a fight there between him and Dujon? Because obviously Dujon might end up being moved into centre half.
I think it depends on if Sterling's fit or not, if I'm honest. I think footballing wise, as a defender, with McCrory, I think you're right where Tav had the attacking presence. McCrory from the flip side has a defensive presence. And to your point there in terms of versatility, we've got that with Sterling, we've got that with McCrory as well. And I think a big part of this as well is it'll be 6 and 7s every week, whereas Tav could be, 8s and 9s, and then he could be 3s and 4s. And that was sometimes Tav's downfall, where he could have a run of a couple of games off being excellent, and then a run of games where he was absolutely shit. So I think with McCrory, you'll probably might just get a level performance throughout the season. But I think the thing for me with McCrory in particular, that Rangers DNA, I think is he left a boy and he's now came back as a man. I think the flip of that is, obviously there's still a bit of work to do in the transfer market, but I think if we sign in terms of some of our flair players, etc., and then not having a good game. I think it's the likes of McCrory, Shankland, etc., to get these boys, give them a kick up the backside if they're not delivering, because they know what it's all about.
Yeah, I think it's a good segue into the next point, William, which is one of the things that I think a lot of us levied at the club last year, where we didn't bring leaders in. McCoist's famous quote about it just being a bunch of wee boys that we've signed. We've got McCrory, who was vice captain at Aberdeen. He didn't have a leadership role at Bristol City, but you've also then adding the likes of Shankland, who was captain at Hearts, Dan Neil, who captained Sunderland during the promotion season. There's no guarantees that these players will be successful. They've got to show that on the pitch, but it's really good to see us add players with that type of experience, especially when they've carried an armband into a squad that was so badly lacking that kind of leadership last year.
Yeah, spot on, mate. I think what you can see, even before McInnes came in, our scouting team, Mr. Kavanagh, everyone like that, clearly saw we needed leadership in every position. So, you look at Shankland, like you've said, captain at Hearts. You look at McCrory, again, it's that spine. Look at McCrory, vice captain. Again, that people might say, also, that's not a leadership role in charge. But again, leadership also means different things. So you'll have someone who is outspoken, right? But your McCrory, Mark said, he'll be a 6-7 every game we get from him, hopefully. That he'll lead by example. He might not shout at players, but he'll lead by example. So I think what they're doing through the transfer market, and then also you get Dan Neil, who, as you said, captain at Sunderland. Again, is family in South Shields and around that area, very hardy people. So I imagine he'll be very vocal as well. So we're clearly identifying and putting leaders in the spine of the team. Again, like you've said, talk is cheap though. It will come to the games that when we have a first hurdle, because again, we always start pretty well, but when we have a first hurdle, who's going to step up? Is it going to be McCrory? Am I going to be wrong? Is he not only going to lead by example on the field? Is he going to shout at people like what we saw Manny do? Again, I don't think anyone expected Manny Fernandez to come in and be demanding it, shouting at people, but that's exactly what he done, and that's what I want to see from our players. So it'll be interesting to see when we come up against our first challenge, who's going to step up, who's going to grab the game by the scruff of the neck, and who's going to lead by example and also be shouting, listen, you're meant to be here, you're meant to be doing this, and getting the players behind them.
Yeah, absolutely. And the second presser was then Ben Godfrey, and I have to say, I think I said this in the video that I did when I was covering the presser. I was actually taken aback just by how big a unit he actually looks. And I think if him and Fernandez are going to be the starting centre halves that we have, then physicality really shouldn't be an issue in the back line. It's going to be interesting to see how we can perform if he does become one of those starting centre halves. But I guess, Mark, this is probably another one that's got a wee bit of a meh response for the fan base, just because he hasn't really played a lot at Atlanta. I think at Norwich and Everton he racked up over 100 appearances in the Premier League, and I think even hearing him in that presser, he kind of acknowledges that he maybe hasn't played as much as he wanted to, but that last stint at Bromby is probably given him a bit of sharpness back that he didn't have up until that point. He played 12 out of 15 games, I think it was, and all those 12 games he started, and I think lasted the majority of the 90 minutes. I think you can sense that he recognises this is probably a chance for him to resurrect his career at a big club. Given the fee we've negotiated for him, it's going to be up to him just to see how he handles the pressure of playing at Ibrox. But it could be a bit of a steal if he performs well.
I think that's it. I think to your point in terms of the 12 games he had at Bromby, at least he's actually had that run, whereas prior seasons he's been in and out. Also, he's made a couple of big moves. I think it was about 16 million and 10 million to Everton from Norwich and then to Atlanta. So, there's obviously teams have obviously seen that potential. And to your point, when he was at Everton, he played quite a significant number of games. It's just obviously since then he's kind of been on a bit of decline. But who knows? I think it's one that, as you said, he's got that presence. He's definitely got that physicality. You've seen that when he was playing with Everton in the past. There's definitely a player there. I think it's just a matter of him grabbing it when it obviously comes his way and keeping him fit as well. will be pretty key there. But no, I can understand why there's probably some concerns, just given obviously what's probably gone on over the last 2-3 seasons. But I think it is his opportunity now, and one that, you know what I mean, if he can get a run of games playing beside Fernandes, you know what I mean, we even talking about physicality across that back four. McCrory starts there, or Sterling, Romans, Fernandes, and Godfrey. Then it's quite a physical back four. You know what I mean? I think it'd put us in a better place. But one, he just needs to obviously get a good pre-season under his belt, and hopefully he can kick on.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things which was interesting in the presser, again, William, he kind of described himself as a front-footed, aggressive defender. I think one of the interesting questions that was thrown at him, which he batted away quite well, was just about other signings that have come up from the English leagues and who haven't performed here. I guess the key thing here is, you know, past experience doesn't mean the future results are going to be determined by that. It's up to him as an individual really to come up and show us what he's capable of and how he can fit into this team and how he can handle the pressure for playing for Rangers.
Yeah, spot on. I think as well the fact that he has either he's been told it by his agent or somebody else has told him. Listen, like, there's been players that have went up to Rangers and up to Scotland, and I don't want to sound disrespectful, but with better quality than him, who maybe hasn't worked out for them. So I think the fact that he has openly acknowledged that, again, I think that shows a level of character from him. Like, again, he's coming up and understanding this isn't just for a walk in the park. I'm going to need to put in some graft here. He can resurrect his career at Rangers 100%. We always love a good, aggressive front foot centre back. I mean, the last two I think of top of my head, Balogun and Calvin Bassey. Again, both fantastic players. I hope he can be just as good as one of them. And again, as I said kind of previously, I don't want to repeat myself, but I think from Rangers, it's a very smart piece of business. I think it's low risk. Do you know what I mean? If it doesn't work out, again, we've got no obligation to buy him. It's not a Cortez situation. It's an option to buy. And if it does work out, what is it, like 3.8 million or something like that? 4 million at most for a guy who's played 100 games in the Premiership for Everton. He's had 2 caps with England. Again, getting an England squad is a feat on its own, so he's clearly shown potential. And at the age of 28, if we were to go out and sign him and get him at his peak, if he does return to that, again, I think that's a good solid 2-3 years you can maybe get out of him, and he might kind of end his career at Rangers, or we might sell him on down south to another team who get promoted for the Championship, and we make some smart business. We do 3.8 million, and then we sell him on. But again, before we even think about that, let's just, and everyone we'll all get behind him, and let's just hope he gets on. He starts off with the front foot and just kind of shows his character and shows that big unit, as you say. I did hear that his recovery pace, or his pace in general, is very good. So I think that will help him as well, is when he's been aggressive in somebody's face. If he does get beat, then he's got that recovery pace as well. So again, I'm looking forward to Godfrey, but I would be very, very... I don't think that will be the last signing that we'll have at centre-back. I'd be very surprised, this is just my personal opinion, if he is the starting centre-back alongside Manny Fernandes. I think we might get somebody else in who have another potential in case that doesn't work out, because we don't want to go back to hedging our bets on a lone player who might turn out to be good. I know you could argue the same. We are doing the exact same for a permanent transfer. I get that. But again, it's you would rather another option there than to be caught with your kind of pants down. Do you know what I mean? With a 28-year-old who's maybe thought he could resurrect his career at Rangers, but then it's not working out. But let's wait and see how it goes on. I've got faith in him that he'll do well.
I was waiting on some 4 lads scandal there when you said caught with your pants down and a 28-year-old, William. I was glad that you finished that off well.
Well, can I just say, I don't know if you noticed in the presser, but see, we listened to it on Friday. I thought he kind of vocally sounded very much like Tav, right? He sounded like him. And then when we went into the comments to look, somebody had put an absolute belter on saying he sounded like Tav. or what Tav would have sounded like had he not been so disappointed every single time he did one of these interviews. I was like, yeah, that's spot on.
It's hard to not laugh at stuff like that. But he did sound it, and he kind of looks a little bit, similar to Tav as well, potentially with the short cropped hair and stuff. But I guess him and McCrory are both 28. Sheryl, they're going to be coming in and viewed as the senior leadership group, in inverted commas. And it was a question I was going to ask McCrory, but didn't get the chance, so managed to ask Ben Godfrey about it, which is how they can use the experiences that they've gone through. McCrory with having to leave Rangers to forge his way to getting first team football at Aberdeen and Bristol City, but then Ben Godfrey having a bit of a setback at Atlanta and recovering with his Brøndby loan, and how they could use that to influence the young players that we've got at Ibrox, because it's the one thing I think all of us want to see is more of those 16, 17, 18, 19-year-olds breaking their way into the first team and then becoming sellable assets. And I thought it was a really mature answer from him. He pointed out that he had mentors as he was coming up through the ranks at Norwich, etc. And actually, he knows himself that the ownership is on him and the other senior players to help these guys develop. Scally, McCallion, Kyle Glasgow, all of these guys really need to learn from the likes of Godfrey and McCrory if they've got any chance of making it at Ibrox, especially.
Hey, do you know what? Again, I keep coming back to this, and it's my prize sentence at the moment. We said a lot of this last year, but we were crying out for leaders, not just your captain. Do you know, we all bemoaned Tav at times, but we also sort of pulled out the fact that there was nobody else around them other than at times Manny Fernandes that was willing to step up and shout and drive people forward and kind of drive the standards. So if you've got these guys, they don't necessarily have to be captains, but if you've got these guys within the squad that are willing to help, to guide people, to give people a wee bit of rocket, to talk people through the game as well, particularly your younger players, because we will see them, I think that's a brilliant thing, and I think it's something that we've needed really badly. Again, like other bits throughout the club that we've needed for years. So even their presence, their experience, that'll be invaluable to players around them.
Yeah, it will be. And it's interesting because we're now probably going to go on and talk about another two signings, one of which is a captain, a former captain of our team, and Dan Neil. I think this is one of the pleasing things for me, Sheryl, is that we're getting people through the door who have got experience of having the armband. And again, I can hear the shouts on Twitter and sometimes the comments that he's just another championship jobber. But just because we've had signings from that league fail, it doesn't mean that every signing's going to fail. I think the difference is that he's only 24. And the bits in his interview about the expectation when playing for Sunderland are kind of similar to the Goldfish Bowl of Glasgow. Sunderland and Newcastle live for their football the same way as we do in Glasgow. And him talking about that pressure kind of spurring him on. Again, it always comes back to if these players can back those words up, but he could be another one of these players that have signed under the radar pretty much that's going to turn out to be a really, really important signing.
Yeah, and all that's very valid, but not as valid as invalid, as the wallpaper abuse that's currently permeating our comments. It's not changing. I like it. It might have been. Somebody there said that was old fashioned in my granny's day. Your granny's clearly a very forward fashion woman with great wallpaper taste. It's not changing. No more dissing of the wallpaper. Anyway, back to Dan Neil.
It's become a running joke on the Sunday show, to be honest. It's great. So back to the question. There we go.
No, again, Rangers podcast bingo. I thought he spoke exceptionally well. I didn't know much about him, so listening to his press conference on Friday, I thought he spoke really well. I was dead enthused by the reference that he made to Jermaine Defoe as well, that he'd spoken to him about coming up to the club, but not only coming up. Thank you very much, Karen. I'm just seeing that there. Coming up, but also finding out a bit about Glasgow. I didn't know, it must have gone under the radar as well that he'd come up and had a visit here. Did you hear him say that? Robbie, he'd come up a few months ago and had a wee tour around, and I thought I was really.
I think I read his dad was at the Hibs game when post split,
right,
as well.
Poor man.
Aye, exactly. And we still managed to get all the language, which is great. Hospitality that night must have been great.
Aye, absolutely. No, I think that somebody that we need. Again, I've done a wee look at him. He captained Sunderland. He brought them up through the playoffs as well. He's had that experience down south. Again, we're not looking, was he 24 years old? You're looking for him, again, similar to what we just said, just to have that presence, have that experience as well. Not necessarily a captain. I know he was the captain down at Sunderland. I don't think he will be up here, but just to have that experience, that knowledge, and to be able to drive people forward. The composure as well. The composure, being able to, the midfield playmaker that we need, that we've been crying out for ages.
Yeah, and I think, William, it's a really interesting point, because one of the players that I've really wanted us to go for this summer was Elliot Watt at Motherwell. Anytime we've played Motherwell, I thought he was a standout. When we pressed him, he always seemed to find space, kept the ball moving. Now, I'm not going to profess that I've watched a lot of championship games, and I know Dan Neil's game inside out, but I've watched a wee bit of the YouTube clips and seen a few things that Joshua Barry and the Rangers Review have written about him, and he seems to be a player that's going to be happy getting it in tight spaces, a decent range of passing, really good at retaining possession and keeping the play ticking over. It does leave us with a fair few options in that midfield now, with Barron, Diamandi, Chukwani, Raskin, Asgard and Cameron, but we're probably going to get rid of at least a couple of them, given the other players that we've been linked with. How do you think he's going to come in and fit into that team straight away as a starter, or as another player going to sign in that position with maybe links to the club that might come in and be starter?
I would just like to say, I think the next episode for Heart and Health is going to be the abuse Sheryl's getting for the wallpaper. I think that's what it's probably going to be about. But to go by your point step by step, Elliot Watt, mate, again, I agree with you. I think he would have been a very good signing for us. Very good retention with the ball, winning it back, disrupting play. Again, that's just obviously from what we've seen against us. I hate to give him a shout out, but my brother-in-law is a huge Motherwell fan. So with that, again, he's able to speak to me. My nephew as well, and really the praises of Elliot Watt was high. So I'm very surprised at the moment that there's no more talk around him. On Dan Neil, again, sorry to bore you with stats, and don't you call me it, Rob. You can go keep that in the chat, right? But just for what I'm seeing, again, 661 minutes played, an average rating of 6.68. He started 8 of them out of the 16 matches. So for me, looking at the defensive side of it, his kind of defensive contributions, his duels won 55.6%. Aerial duels, again, he's a pretty small, slim guy, 63.6. His passing as well, his passing range seems pretty good. That was sitting about kind of 80%. So for the few games that he's played, he seems like he likes to kind of control the game, get the ball and distribute it out. So I would say a number 6. That to me sounds like your anchor man who likes to sit there, get the ball back and play it out to your playmakers. Is he going to start? Again, it's hard. I'd say it's too early to tell. We are going to sign in more midfielders, 100%. We're going to let midfielders go, and who that's going to be, again, obviously there's the rumours of Raskin. I think Diamandi will go, if I'm honest. Again, this is my personal opinion, this might be unpopular, but I just don't think he turns up consistently. Do you know what I mean? Mark kind of mentioned with McCrory, 6 out of 7 you're going to get every game. Again, Diamandi was kind of like Tavernier, who's going to get a great game, but then the other 2-3 games he just kind of pitters away and doesn't really do much. So Aye, it's his position to make. He's got the times on his hands at the moment, so he has every advantage that he could ever want. So it's up to him to be showing McInnes why he should be his number 6 and why he should be starting. If that's going to be your ball-winning midfielder, your deep-line playmaker, shout out to the football manager fans who'll understand that. Aye, that's just really up to him. He's got time in his hands, so I think we'll probably see some more in. Do I think it's going to be who you're alluding to? I've seen how much they're asking for, mate. Sorry to kind of not be the bearer of bad news. I don't have anything to confirm, but I don't see us paying around 17 million for Lewis Ferguson. I'm just going to be honest.
Oh, I am just waiting to try and find out the source of this, but allegedly he said he wants to leave Bologna. So it's going to be interesting, especially if the links are that Barron might go in the opposite direction. Now it will be extremely interesting to see what happens over the next couple of weeks. Because if you can get a deal done where Barron goes in the opposite direction, I think every Rangers fan will take that all day long.
Well, I thought it was. I don't know if this is what somebody might jump in here say. I thought it was Raskin. That's what I was saying. Like there's a swap, like possible Raskin. Then we again. I don't know if we'll get any money. We just do a swap Raskin and Ferguson, which again I wouldn't be opposed to. But I think unless we sell Raskin for a healthy amount, then I don't know. I see the risk of us paying out what 20 million euros, so what in pounds, 17, 18 million in pounds. I don't know. I don't. As much as I want to see Ferguson come out, be a captain for our team, can I justify that amount of money? No, because I think we could spend that money in other positions and shore everything up a lot better. Again, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. I guess staying with the Dan Neil stuff, Mark. Just so we don't get carried away with thinking about spending 20 million euros on Lewis Ferguson. Like William was saying, I think for the majority of his time that he's been playing, he has kind of been that 6 as somebody that likes to dictate the ball. I think the thing that again I liked in the presser was talking about what he does on the pitch around his communication, his organisation, and like we've said, adding a layer of leadership into the team that doesn't necessarily need to have the armband. You can never have too many of those types in there alongside younger players as well, especially if we're going to give time to some of them.
No, I think obviously I'm based in the North East, and everyone I've spoken to speaks very highly of Dan Neil. Sunderland fans think he was a class act. He broke into that team when he was quite young, captain at a young age. Local boy. And I think one thing that he does have, he's got great composure on the ball to take it in tight spaces, and he can dictate the play, which is something we've not probably had for quite some time, to be honest. I know we've had like Raskin that in there, but it's not dictating the way we sort of like. I think sometimes we drop far too deep, and then our midfield's too far back. But he's quite a tidy player, and obviously I think once Sunderland obviously got to Premiership, they obviously added a bit of quality. Just need to look at the season they had last season. And it's obviously not worked out. Obviously, Ipswich has played half the games he was there, but I think for me, we'll add a bit of strength and depth in that area. And I think we are sort of building to a number of players leaving in the summer. I think that's pretty clear now, given even the rumours are coming out now. Ferguson, I know what I'm saying there in terms of the fee and stuff, but I think Raskin will probably go for about 20-25 million if he keeps up how he's doing at this World Cup. I think you just need to look at the impact he had the other night there. Obviously, Belgium were 2-0 down, and then they come away with 3-2. It's pretty telling, and I think he'll have an impact on the next game. So I would not be short selling Raskin in any way. I think we should hold that value. He's 2 years on his contract, and look at the impact he's had over the last few weeks in this World Cup. So I think that's one thing we've probably been bad at the past, is probably underselling some players, but I'd be holding pretty strong for that. And then obviously we can utilise that money depending on what the actual true figure will be for Ferguson. But if Bologna are interested in Conor Barron, then we can negotiate that, but I think it will definitely be to our benefit. But to the point in Dan Neil, I think it's one that it depends again on who else comes in over the course of the summer, but I think he will definitely have an impact over the course of this season.
Yeah. And before we move on to Pandor, I think one of the comments that we had in the chat before we came on here was, I guess, does the level of signing that we've made so far show a lack of ambition? And anyone of my guests can answer this question. For me, my own personal opinion is it doesn't, because you're going to need players that are part of the squad, and you're going to need quality as part of that squad. Now, the game-changing signings will come once the World Cup is finished, I would imagine. And if we finish the transfer window with these being the only signings, then we can be disappointed. But I think it's probably a little bit early. Quite happy to open it up and take any comments from anyone on the floor if they would like to add anything to that comment.
I'll start. I think it's one that I think the problem we've got is there's no blockbuster signing, so people might be like, "Oh, it's a bit meh," and that's fine. But I think the one thing you can sort of see what McInnes and Andrew Cavanagh are trying to do is this whole, back to Cheryl's point earlier, what happened at Tynecastle. This leadership piece, I think, has been absolutely critical. First and foremost, over the first few weeks, is obviously get these lads in the door, and we've obviously done that. Are they headline signings? Absolutely not. But I think the difference between sort of where we were this last season to this season is we've probably got more consistent performers. I think we'll see that'll be the difference this season to last. And as I said, to that point now, the World Cup's still underway, and we've still got a bit of time before obviously players will open up for signing. But I think from my perspective, I think we're doing the right thing in terms of that leadership piece. I think we have missed that for probably back to 55. Seville season's probably the last time we've probably had real characters, real leaders in that dressing room. It's quite a long time. That's 4 or 5 years ago. And I think it's one that Rangers DNA is pretty critical, getting him in the door early. And even Alan McGregor's probably another example of that, coaching wise. Been around the block for some time. It's something we've been lacking for quite a while. So I can understand it's not been blockbuster as such, but I can understand sort of the jigsaw that they're putting together just now for them once this transfer window fully opens up. I think you will see some signings, and also we'll probably see some going out the other way. I wouldn't be surprised if like Raskin, Chermiti will go. I've got a feeling. I think there's just too much noise now around that, and I think the money we're being quoted. I've seen people on X saying, "Jar, keep them," but I think if you're getting offered 20-25 million, you can sign 3 probably better players. I think from my perspective, I think he's developing into a player, but he's not the finished article. And from our perspective, we need somebody up there who's going to be firing right from the word go. That's how I see it. But they say there might be something in the comments and not happy with it. But I think we can definitely get better quality for the amount of money that will come in.
Can I ask you on that note as well, because I know we've not addressed it, but if we're talking about people going out, there's been so much chat that I've seen on X this week around Chermiti, and obviously there's not been a bid or anything like that, but what's your thoughts on that, gents? Would you keep him or let him go?
I thought something was it, I don't know, Mark or Rob. Is there not some with Leon? Was there or some sort of
yeah.
Right.
Like
25 million?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I mean, to me, 25 million, 23 million just to get us to the table and start talking. I mean, he's the profile of striker you've got now. I personally don't subscribe to it, but if it's going to get us money, he's a profile, he's tall, do you know what I mean? He's physical. He's proven for us in the split when we were in a title race. Unfortunately, obviously, we kind of collapsed, but he was scoring goals. He was fulfilling at his end of the bargain. So for me, that shows he has the composure, and that's what teams will look for. So again, to go back to what Mark was saying, I know I mentioned about I wouldn't be paying the 17 million for Ferguson, but I fully agree with Mark. If we can get the money for Raskin and for Chermiti, yeah, again, like they can take your wallpaper as well, Sheryl. Sorry, I couldn't miss that opportunity. Apologies.
Priceless. They couldn't afford my wallpaper, despite what people say about it.
I think the difficult thing with selling Chermiti is that, like everybody said, a few people say in the chat, he's probably going to kick on again next season, and we're not really going to see the best of him now. In an ideal world, if you were to say sell Chermiti, make a 15 million profit and replace him with Braga, would that be a bad state of affairs given Braga's performances last year? Now, it might be a good move, but I just think the great thing with Chermiti towards the end of last season was the way that he was bringing people into the play. His link-up play was brilliant towards the end of the season. he'd started scoring goals a bit more regularly, and you can't help but think in a team the way that McInnes likes to play, and they lined up that way against Wraith where it was kind of almost 4-4-1-1. He would be a great focal point for that attack, especially after learning the physicality of the game, being away, working during the summer and stuff. So keep him for another year. He bangs 25, 30 goals in. You have 30, 40 million next year, maybe. Who knows? I would stick rather than twist at the moment.
I don't see him scoring 25, 30 goals. I just think his finishing's too erratic. And I get your point at the end of the season, but I think once the pressure was off, a bit more relaxed, whereas certain critical games when we needed him, he didn't do it. And I get he's young and he's developing, I get all that, but I think if you're getting offered, I think the boy put 17 million, maybe 20 million euros, which plus add-ons to 25, but I think you're getting offered that sort of money and you can get people more prolific and a bit more experience. I think you've got to take it, but that's my perspective. Can we afford to hopefully have another season he might turn up? That's the question. But
I think the only thing I would counter that with Big Mark is that the look at the games he did score in, Celtic games, Hearts games, the big games where you need your striker to turn up. The other games, yeah, he was guilty of misses, but how many other players really turned up in some of them? You know, the post-split games, what did he score? 5 goals, I think. So you could argue that from when he started coming into the team, he actually performed pretty well. And I'm going to steal a page out of Williams' book. I think he was probably the third most efficient striker in the league when you actually look at the stats and how many minutes it took for him to score per goal. He was only just behind Shanklin, and we've all clamoured for Shanklin. So I think part of it we're blinded by his early form, and towards the end of it he actually did start and was one of the few that were actually sticking the ball in the back of the net on a regular occasion for us.
And that was off the back of not playing much football as well, Rob, before he came to us. So you're going in it now with a proper pre-season. McInnes getting everybody organised. He's obviously got Shanklin along beside him as well. I think I would be inclined to stick as well. But actually, it's quite a bizarre one that we're even having that conversation around him, because how we all felt about him this time last year, or kind of around sort of September, October time. I actually wouldn't bother me either way if we can cash in on him and have a decent sale on, but also I wouldn't be averse to him staying.
Absolutely. And who knows, we might be sitting here this time in 2 weeks' time talking this way about Thelo Asgard after he's won the World Cup with Norway, but stranger things have happened. We'll talk about the other signing, but before we do, William, I guess a few quick words on Jack Butland, because he obviously went the other way in this kind of football manager-esque swap deal that we did with Hull, which meant that we've actually bought a Croatian goalkeeper for £3 million. Jack obviously has been a decent servant to the club, won a league cup with us, and I think has nothing but respect for the club. But we desperately needed to make a change in goals this year, and I think the majority of the fans were in favour for that. And we've got the new boy in who has the same song as his goalkeeping coach.
I've not heard the song, I'll be honest. So if anybody wants to sing it right now, I mean, I'm not opposed to it. But no, again, Jack Butland, what can I say? Classy guy, again, model professional. I had a lot of time for him. I think a lot of times, and I do include myself in this. I'm honest. I'm never a hypocrite. I would call him out for the mistakes that he made, but again, I think I quite easily and quickly forgot about all the saves that he pulled off for us and kept us in certain games. And if it wasn't for Butland, then I don't even want to think about how worse off we could have been. So yeah, Butland goes with my thanks. Again, a lot of time for the man. I think he was a great servant of our club. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. I think if you were to ask him, he would have wanted more. That's the reason why he came here. He wanted to win trophies. I think that's something that's been quite lacking in his career, and that's meant with no disrespect towards him. He's been kind of the front man and go out there and winning the trophies off of his effort. I mean, you look at what his penalty saves when he was with us, was it 6 out of 7 and stuff like that? It was absolutely phenomenal. I'll open this up. I can't remember the last keeper we had that had such a really good, decent record when it came to penalty saves like that. So yeah, and then the new guy we've brought in, I'm totally putting that on me. By the way, I think it was the other Sunday. I was saying to you guys, what about that Croatian keeper? Because that other game when he was it against England, the amount of saves he was pulling off. So I think Rangers have. I think they maybe got confused. I meant
And got the wrong goalkeeper.
Aye, but
Right.
listen, we'll take Ivor. Kind of sounds terrible, but I've really not saw much of him. I'll be honest. Again, I had to look up his stats, so apologies. But just from his stats, again, great shot stopper. I think Hull statistically, that was easy for me to say, had a anomaly of a kind of season, finishing 6th and still getting promoted. The amount of goals they conceded and stuff like that, but I think the amount of shots that he stopped per, like, if you average it out per game, is like 3.31. I think that's like the equivalent of XG. I think it's something like that. So the fact, if he can replicate that with us, then yeah, I think we're on to a winner here with this guy. So 26, Croatia's number 2. Again, the floor's his really at Rangers. He just needs to apply himself. Command the area, because I think that's what we really lacked with Butland a wee bit, as well as commanding his area, commanding the centre backs, and watching the highlights as well. He does have a tendency of coming out and including the ball. So I'm quite excited about it. But again, we'll wait and see. I'm sure we'll give him those customary 12 minutes of judging his performance, and that'll be us. We'll decide if he's going to be good or going to be a flop.
I say 12 minutes is quite nice to them. I was usually going to give them 5 minutes, mate, in the Rangers jersey, and then we'll make the kind of decision on whether he's good or bad. I guess, Sheryl, I need to come to you when it comes to Jack Butland leaving. You know, I don't know if that makes you upset and leaves only 2 Romans as a bit of eye candy for you in the starting lineup, but you know, hopefully there'll be another couple of hunky males through the door that you can drill over as part of the starting lineup.
Do you know what? I'm so disappointed that you think that little of me, that I would be that shallow. And all I can do is assure our lovely listeners and viewers out there that I'm not like that. I don't know why he's painting this picture of me. I simply admire 2 Romans for the excellent, robust and potential incredible captain and left back, and that he is. That's all that. You know, that was all that I wanted to take that 2 Romans poster off the wall, the new display in the Rangers shop. That was the only reason that I got chucked out for trying to remove that from the wall. So I don't know what you're trying to say about me here, Rob. However, no, I like William. I very much agree with William. I loved Jack Butland purely for the fact he was so kind of, it sounds like a bit of a naff word, like statesman-like, the way he dealt with the fans, the way he spoke to the kids that queued up. He went round, he seen every single child that was waiting there, every single adult that was waiting there to get something signed. He always engaged with the kids. He always spoke exceptionally well. I thought his wee bit that he put out on Instagram and his wife's thing that she put out, I think on X as well, was a really, really classy touch. And do you know what? I'm delighted for him. He's actually going to go down and get a crack at the EPL. So I think it's worked out exceptionally well for both of them. But I do have, as I did last week on the Sunday show, I've got a bit of trivia for you, right? And it was about Ben Godfrey last week and his VAR thing. So this week, my question is to you guys and to anyone who is listening, what was he the 4th goalkeeper in history to do? I'll be raging if somebody gets this straight away because I got you on last week.
The 4th goalkeeper in history to do.
4th goal. There's only ever been. He is the 4th goalkeeper to manage this in history. What is it?
So is this Butland or Pandor?
Pandor, sorry.
Pandor.
Yes. Nobody's getting it.
Goalkeeper in history to do. Nah.
Save 3 penalties on a match. Huh?
No,
somebody's got it. Somebody's got it in the comments. Well
clean
done,
sheet in the
Hamish.
playoffs, is that it?
Yeah. Go through the playoffs without conceding a goal.
Oh, the whole playoffs. That's brilliant. Wow.
Yep.
That's really good.
Well done, Hamish. Thanks for bursting my bubble.
that Cheryl's trivia corner is going to have to be a new feature in every Sunday show. You're going to have to come up with a new one every week now, Sheryl. That's it. The bar's been set.
Yeah.
But it does link us on nicely to rumours, because we always love a good rumour on this show, Mark. I think one of the areas that we still need, we've spoken about it a little bit before, is potentially in that defensive third. And we've been linked with Sankun Diawara from Troyes. Now, I think the interesting thing for me is he's only 20, but he can play centre half and left back. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to test your ball knowledge of League Two football, but I think it suggests that there's still rumours about defenders coming through the door, and it's an area where we are probably lacking in depth, especially when you consider Robbins is really our only fit left back at the moment. So having a player that can potentially play in a couple of positions across that defensive line would be a smart acquisition for us.
Definitely helping, and we talked about McCrory as well. Obviously, he is left-footed, but can play right and left. So I think you can utilise definitely Diawara. You know, to be fair, he's only really broken through this season. He obviously had quite a bit of an impact, given I think he played 12 games from January. I think maybe it was 14 games. Sorry, I think there was 4 at left back, and the rest were all at centre back. Had quite a bit of an impact there, given they got promotion into League One. So I think to your point there, he's a young lad, but again, just what I was reading, I'm not going to pretend I'm an expert on this because I've not done much in terms of watching him, but it's a physical aspect again, which I think it's been a common theme with sort of what we've been doing this summer so far, which I think something we were lacking last season. So, but I think to your point there, the fact that we can support Romans, obviously we need cover in that space, and then Godfrey, Manny Fernandez, obviously got Suter. Won't go too much in about Suter, but we've still got some form of cover there across the back line. So it'll be interesting. Given the fee as well, I think we're looking at about £2 million, euros, roughly about that. So not overly expensive. And he's been coming up a bit on X since the link in terms of promising youngsters coming through. But I think it's one thing that I think we've done quite a bit of that last season. I don't want to go down that route of too many 19, 20, 21-year-olds. I think we've obviously looked at some experience so far, but I think he one that could be, given the fee point, could add some value in there, and he's definitely had a promising second half of the season last year.
Yeah, absolutely. It will be interesting to see. I mean, 20-year-old left back, centre half could be a good squad player to have, and it does suggest though that Godfrey is coming in to be one of the starters. The other player that we've been heavily linked with, Sheryl, is Vranja Dragojevic. Got the name right.
Well done.
Chris Jack obviously reporting the interest. Interesting thing here is we've obviously signed Dan Neil. We're continually still being linked with Ferguson. The fee for this boy is £5 million or around that. He's only 20, but he is the captain of Partizan Belgrade, and we know what that type of football over there is like. So being the leader of a team at such a young age certainly suggests that he's got something about him. Now, I'm not going to pretend to have watched a lot about this boy, but just the profile of player, and if we are really interested in him, again, another great thing, young leader, hopefully will come in and be there to drive forward the team and hold each other to account.
Yeah. And do you know what? At the age of 20, though, he's already played a decent amount of football, because when you think about Diawara, I think he's only been playing for a year. Is this his first full year of football? So when you're actually there the same age, but he's actually been playing for Partizan Belgrade for quite a long time. He's captained them. I think we put in a bid for this guy, haven't we? Have Partizan Belgrade already knocked back a bid? I believe
allegedly, yeah.
3.6 and 3.9 million, and they're holding out for about 4.5 plus a sell on.
Yeah, they are. 'Cause I think Bologna are interested in the other centre midfielder that plays for them, which was potentially touted as the Ferguson replacement for them. So there's a couple of their players that are looking to sell. And yeah, this is the one that Chris Jack, I think, when he was on Rangers Review, got the text about just outside the pressers on Thursday. So it definitely sounds like there's no smoke without fire, and we've got really serious interest in that player.
No, I think it's exciting. Again, I don't know. I've heard kind of varying reports about how much a lot of these signings are coming from the recruitment team. But obviously, the Rangers have been very, very clear. Jim Gillespie's been very clear on the fact that McInnes gets the final say on everybody that's coming in, which is quite reassuring. But we are moving towards bringing in a mixture of guys in their late 20s that have got that leadership, that have got that experience, with a mixture of young guys as well. But I'm going to have to look at it very, very slowly because I had to write it down so I didn't make an arse of the name. Rob, go on. I told you. I told you at the beginning what his name was. Right, Rob, help my sister out.
Vanja Dragojevic.
There we go. Him. Bringing him in, he's got that leadership. He's already been the captain. He's played a lot of football, and he's only 20 years old as well. So exciting.
Just staying with you, Sheryl, before I go to William, on a different topic. Comment in there from Redned. Obviously, we've signed a lot of ex-captains now. Is there a case of too many cooks spoil the broth? From that point of view, too many leaders. I don't think you can ever have enough leaders in a team. You know,
No.
You think back to some of your great teams, but it'd be good to get your thoughts.
Yeah. Do you know what I think? When we had so few, as in one or none at times this season, no, bring it on, because these things kind of settle themselves as well. You'll have your captain. We don't know who it'll going to be. A lot of people are saying it might be Shankland. We don't know yet, but I think it's brilliant. I think that we have, because it can show up in different ways as well. You can have your leaders like Jack Butland was very much off the pitch. You can have guys that are willing to speak up in the dressing room. You can have guys that aren't captains but are willing to, that know your McCrory's, etc., that know what playing for Rangers is all about. So no, I think going from where we were last season, you can't have enough leaders within that team, and I think they'll take on their own roles within the team anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, we'll try and wrap this up in the next 10-15 minutes. So apologies if we're going to go over the other folks, but bear with us. Hopefully you're enjoying the show. One of the areas that we've been pretty short on links, actually, William, is the wingers and the forward areas. Now strikers, I can get the point, because we've got Chimiti, Nadiri, the lesser spotted Danilo, Shankland, etc. up top. I think it's the creativity and the game changing of the wingers that we're a little bit light on there at the moment. Now, it's safe to say one player that all the fans would like to see back at the club is Mikey Moore, and I think he's been told overnight that he can go back out on loan, with PSV and Dortmund seemingly showing some interest into him. Now, one of the comments, or I've seen a few comments on X and stuff about him not being a McInnes type winger, but surely given his performances last year, if there's any opportunity for us to get him back, we've got to look at that.
Yes, I think Mikey Moore, for a young lad, was, I think, a man amongst that squad. I mean, what I think about with Mikey Moore, and why I think he got it, was in the Old Firm when like two Romans is like, I can't remember who he's squaring up against, but then like four of their players come in and you just see wee Mikey Moore run about 10-15 yards to go over and back up his teammate. Again, to go back to that question you asked Sheryl. See, if we had a squad full of leaders, I'll put my teeth back in, all of those players would be over there. Right now, I'm not trying to advocate like we go and start. I'm just saying you stick up for your teammate. As anyone who's played any sort of sports whatsoever, one of the first things you're taught, you're a teammate, you're a team out there. You've got each other's back no matter what. So I would love to see Mikey Moore back. Again, you mentioned about the formation that McInnes plays, the kind of 4-4-1-1. Again, I always thought Mikey Moore's kind of best position was a number 10, if I'm honest, behind that striker. Gives him all that freedom to go to the right or to the left. So if we could get him in, 100%, I think him linking up with Chimiti or Shankland. Again, Shankland proved that at Hearts as well. I think I saw a few comments, people said Shankland's a Chris Boyd kind of signing. I don't believe that's the case. I think he's quite intelligent and links up with players. So that could be quite entertaining to see. And then you've got wee Curtis coming back on the wing. I would like him out on the left, cutting in. with his right hitting a shot. Again, the age-old question. I feel this has been going back to prehistoric times. Who's going to be Rangers' right winger? That's a question we need to figure out as well. So, but if I was to put my logical hat on here and say, for Mikey Moore, and I don't blame him for this whatsoever, if Mikey Moore wants to think about what's best for Mikey Moore and progressing, would he want to go elsewhere in a different league, experience a different culture of football? Again, I wouldn't blame him for that. I obviously, like every fan here, I want him back at Rangers. And I think McInnes, if the opportunity is to present itself, would also do that. But it all depends on the player. Like, again, he said all the right things in interviews last year. He said he wanted to be back. I get that. But again, only he will be able to answer if that's true. If he does want to come back, he will make the conscious effort to be coming back to Rangers. If he doesn't want to come back and he believes it'll further his career going elsewhere, I've got no issues with that with the wee man. I wish all the best for him. I think but no matter what happens, he'll look back at his time at Rangers and be very thankful, and he'll always be a supporter of our club, and I think fans will always be a supporter of him no matter where he goes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to say, I love the way that people use the comparison with Chris Boyd as a bit of a slagging. If Shanklin can score half the goals that Chris Boyd scored for us, I think we'd all be happy bears, to be honest. So people forget the amount that he used to score, which is hilarious. Now, last point before we go, and I'm going to come to each of you to get your opinion, and it'll be ladies first, just because that's the way it is. I'm keen to get thoughts from each of you just on McInnes, now that he's been in the door a couple of weeks. I think we've had some really good content for the club, the behind the scenes with him on his first 3 days, some really good insight on his interaction with the players through the training videos and some of the club interviews. Sheryl, I guess, quick initial comparison on how you felt when McInnes was initially appointed and how you're feeling now that we're kind of 2 weeks in, and we've seen behind the scenes on a few things.
I think, as I said last week, I still have my former, which is fatigue over Rangers managerial appointments. That I still got that kind of. I've just been fingers burnt after the last few disasters that we've had. Look, for me, I think it's great. I think these videos are put out. They're always put out. They're never going to fire out a video that makes them look terrible. I know that, you can be encouraged by these. It is a wee bit exciting, but I think it'll come down to, I'm dead interested, I'm dead excited about watching his first game. That's where I'll probably make a very rash opinion on him, that he's either going to bring home every single trophy that we're going to go for, or we're going to have another disaster season. I like these videos, but I still have a wee bit of kind of trepidation around not his appointment as such, just about how it hasn't worked with the last few managers that we've had up until now. But there is some promising signs. I like the way, who was it? I think was it Connor Barron, very early on, his interaction with Connor Barron at the training ground. You see him going around all the players. You've seen him. I think I'd hear somewhere else that he'd taken a bit of time to speak to Ryan Naderi, have a good look at him, see how he wants to play him. And then obviously, I know we've not touched on it, but there was the game yesterday at Raith Rovers, 5-1. Quite exciting as well. So there's some positive signs there, absolutely. But I think, obviously, without stating the obvious, the real test comes when we actually get in, maybe having a look at him after the first friendly as well and see what team he puts out, see how he changes things as well. So quietly, a tiny bit optimistic.
I'll come to you next, Mark, and we'll leave William for the words of wisdom to wrap up at the end.
I don't think anything's changed, to be honest. I'm still excited. I think in terms of his press conference, I think the one thing I liked is he didn't give too much away. This whole philosophy, I was going to say pish, but you know what I mean, they go on about nowadays. It's just words. He kept it quite lighthearted, and the standards. And I think that piece of what Sheryl was referring to in terms of the players, etc. altogether, I think that's a big part of why he hearts and how he's had success in the past. You look at how he was in Aberdeen. Even Kilmarnock, given when he took over there, I think that one thing Derek McInnes teams will be is that togetherness, and I think it's something again we've been lacking for quite some time now. So I think to also Sheryl's point there, it's a matter of when the first game comes, we'll obviously see how it's obviously going to line up. So there'll be also still a lot of changes between now and then. We're about 4 weeks or so from the first game. You know what I mean? So there's still going to be a lot of business done between now and then. But no, I'm overly excited. I think he conducted himself really well. I'm not going to use the good old cliche, spoke well and all that, but I felt he done what he had to do, and you know, he's not going into too much detail and not giving too much away. But I mean, I think it's one that he does conduct himself to be a Rangers manager. I think one thing that we'll see is the standards definitely being raised day on day. So no, I'm quite optimistic and think he'll do well.
William?
Just going to say words of wisdom again for me, mate, so I can clip that and show it to my wife, because that'll be grand for me.
Okay, we're now going to go to William for his last words of wisdom.
I appreciate that, Rob, mate. McInnes, again, I think Sheryl and Mark summed it up pretty well. I'm trying to think of what we can really say, other than the players speak very highly of him. One of the things they always mention is man management. I can only speak from when I wanted to be an athlete. I felt I always done better for somebody who got to know me personally. So I think that will go a long way for him. I think players will always buy into you more. Any job you're in when you're a manager, if you get to know people on a personal level, you have an interest in them, they are willing to do that a little bit more for you. And I think that's what it's going to take to be successful at Rangers. So I think on paper, it has a very high percentage to be a successful season. But again, it all comes down to that first hurdle, that first challenge, what those players do, how McInnes reacts, how the players react. He won manager of the season for a reason. But again, Hearts and Rangers are completely different beast, and that's meant no disrespect towards Hearts. It's a completely different beast to manage us in comparison to Hearts. So again, just like every other Rangers fan, I hope at the end of this year, at the end of this season, we'll get smiles on our faces. We're thinking about, like, remember we were talking about if it's going to work out. Look how well it's worked out. I hope that's the case. I've got my fingers crossed for him, and I believe Derek McInnes will be able to get the buy-in from the players. But again, it's all up to the players and the manager to do it on the day.
Absolutely. And on that note, that is us done for tonight, and hopefully everybody watching and listening has enjoyed that chat. Thank you to my guest, Sheryl. As always, an absolute pleasure to have you on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's lovely being with you. Despite the grief that I got over my wallpaper, it's been lovely being back with you.
Good. Mark, great to see you. Didn't even ask you how your holiday was, mate. Apologies. But good to see you. Hope you enjoyed it, and thank you very much for coming on.
No, good to be back. Sheryl, if I find any shinies, I'll send them on to you, all right? But no, good to be back, and also speak about Rangers. Lots been happening over the last 2 weeks, so we'll make it continue.
And William, as always, mate, thank you for joining us. Great input and insight again. Thank you.
No, thank you for having me. Mark just unlocked so many memories there in my Pokemon cards, calling them shiny. So cheers for that, Mark. I'm now going to go and find my Pokemon collection, see if I can sell the one for it.
Oh, brilliant. So before I finish, just need to say another massive thank you to all of the people and companies that sponsor FOLADs: CBD Oil Scotland, LBJ Consultants, Elite Scooters Scotland, as well as our very own Candid, along with the partners that we've got at RYDC, Black Rooster and Art of Gold. Just a reminder that we're obviously going to be bringing you coverage from the press conferences as well now. I've got the privilege of being able to go to the Rangers Training Centre to sit in on them. The McCrory and Ben Godfrey ones with my thoughts are already up on YouTube. So please keep your ears and eyes peeled for them as they are released. If you want to become a member and get access to ad-free shows as well as a whole host of other content that's sitting on there, you can have a wee scan of the QR code that's up in one of the corners, or there'll be notes in the show for you to be able to follow instructions. Stevie, Kenny and I think Davey will be back tomorrow night with the flagship. We'll have a show for you every day this week. And all that's left for me to do is to thank everybody that tuned in to watch us live. Anybody that's listening is back via your normal pod sources. We do really appreciate the support and hope you can continue to share the pod online. Have a good night and have a great week ahead. Thank you.
The Four Lads Rangers podcast is sponsored by Candid, LBJ Consultants, CBD Oil Scotland and Elite Scooter Scotland, in partnership with Black Rooster, Art of Gold and Rangers Youth Development Company. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. Four Lads podcast is delighted to be sponsored by CBD Oil Scotland. Get a massive 30% off now for all their gummies and their oils. Go and check them out. These help with things like stress, anxiety, sleep patterns, mood, depression, even stuff like fibromyalgia. Go and check them out, cbdoilscotland.com. Use the code 4lads to get a massive 30% off. You enter right now and you'll be in the hospitality draw for tickets for Rangers versus West Ham. Derek McInnes' first game in charge, and you will get that opportunity not only to get 30% off, but you'll also be in the draw for hospitality tickets for West Ham. If you don't want to use the website, you can come into either shop here in Thornley Bank or in Kinnan Park. It's called Bits and Bongs. You go in there, use the code 4lads and you'll get a massive 30% off. We're delighted CBD Oil Scotland are sponsoring 4Lads. Check it out and go and help yourself to some oils, some gummies with a fantastic 30% off.